Hey, what's up everyone? It's Snoo. Welcome to a brand new series that I would like to come out with one video prior to the league start. I would even like the community to vote on this moving forward, but this time around, what I'm doing here is I am taking one of the very most popular league starters by some popular content creator and making it Magic Find. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make a Magic Find build out of their league starter, trying to keep the spirit of their build intact as best as I can, and in many cases this means it'll be a kind of hybridized Magic Find build, but we're going to start with Tuna's very popular 3.22, 3.23, and 3.24 Lightning Arrow League starter. It got a huge amount of gameplay. Deadeye was crazy popular last league. I'm sure it's going to get a lot of play from a lot of different people this time around, and it would be nice if you had Magic Find, a path to the Magic Find variant. So that's what we're looking at today. That is the reason for this video, and I hope a lot of you will get some value out of this, especially those of you in my audience who love Magic Find stuff, and especially those of you who might have been a little bit disappointed that my own personal league starter this league is not a Magic Find league starter. So I am still going to roll with Reverse Chill Elemental Hit, but this one's for you guys. This one's for the community. All right, so as you can see, I got a very typical Magic Find looking Ranger before me. There she is. She's got some skitter bots, which might make you scratching your head a little bit. But at any rate, we're going to start with a mapping showcase. So you'll get right up front, right out the gate. You get to see how good the build is, how functional it is. And then we'll get into the gear. I'll show you the gear, all the different gear breakdown. We'll get into the skill gems. We'll go over the jewels, the passives, and then the path of building will be at the end, and it'll be a little bit more important than normal because we've got things to look at there that I can't even showcase in the initial build guide. For example, tattoos. So the tattoos are coming back, and they're going to have some impact on the build. All right, so here we go. I am just going to be doing this atlas here. This is my typical, this is just kind of a typical random Legion expedition farming maps, Exarch altars, nothing super crazy going on here. This is the 3.23 Atlas, obviously, as it's being recorded before the following league. But, you know, something similar could be had in next league, and we could be using special scarabs. But anyway, I'm not going to use any scarabs. It's just kind of going to be a simple showcase. I will pick Legion on here. All the way down here. And this map happens to be Nemesis Beyond. Should be a little bit fun. But yeah, let's check it out. Let me show you what this build looks like. And so you have in your head the idea of how strong Tuna's build is. Right out the gate, you probably have, some sense of how much power is being knocked off by virtue of going Magic Find. I believe it's 66% quant and over 300% rarity on this build at the end. Okay, so obviously we're going to rush to the boss because that's the smartest thing to do. To get those better altars. I'm actually not going to even hit the shrine. So we'll go ahead and check that. Ooh. If we can find the boss. Kind of skipping over a lot of altars, aren't I? Alright, we got some rage. You might notice some rage in this build. Where's the rage from? Well, I'm not going to not do it. I'm going to get Warlord's Mark in there. I just got to do it. I don't really think, personally, that Sniper's Mark is better than Warlord's Mark in maps on mappers. That's my personal thoughts on it. You can swap Warlord's Mark for Sniper's Mark if you really want to, and it's not going to change the build fundamentally all that much, for the record. Of course, I am using Secrets of Suffering here. That's why I have Skitterbots. And here we go. We got our first Legion. I happen to be using the tech of the video I just came out with very recently with Worm Sign gloves and the pseudo 5 link with Storm Rain, Blast Rain combo. Okay, if I were to die, it would be right here. So take a look at that health. Am I falling off a cliff? I don't know. I got some pretty rough mods here. We'll open that expedition at the same time. Not making it easy on myself. Some high-risk gameplay for live footage. Seems to be doing all right. I have yet to die on a showcase. I've, of course, practiced a lot of maps on here. I've been very pleasantly surprised at just how unlikely it is I seem like I'm dying. There are a lot of defensive layers on this build. This build is absolutely stronger than Tuna's default build at the latest stage when it comes to the defenses in particular. That's inherent to going Warlord's Mark, getting endurance charges into the build, also inherent with going Secrets of Suffering, getting sap in the build, as well as getting Berserk in the build, obviously. So way more mitigation, actual mitigation, than the standard build. That's one of the reasons why I love it, and that's why, for example, in Affliction League, last league, when I built characters like this, they were able to survive even the craziest intense 10k plus juice, you know, abyss farming maps. So kind of using the same principles there on obviously much less budget, but not so little the budget that I have a Headhunter. So again, with this sort of format, I don't want to steer away from the spirit of the build. I want to make it a viable Magic Find build, but I don't want to make it so crazy that you're like, oh, well, yeah, okay, sure, you know, you got Headhunter, great, it's a functional build, right? No, we're still going to keep things kind of within a similar budget as to the sort of end game or later portions of the build. And if you go, and we'll check out the PoE later, it'll be very important to look at it, you'll see that I'm really just basically right in alignment with the, in Tuna's case, early, mid, late game gear set, skill set, passive tree. It's pretty well in line with the late game version on there, which, you know, again, pre-Headhunter budget. All right, so let's go over the gear here. I crafted pieces of gear that tried to match Tuna's late game set as much as I could, and this is very much in line. It's almost identical to his. It's actually kind of a hard bow to craft, but this is what he had for the late game version. It does not have 2 additional arrows, but it's got pretty good rolls. I think all tier 2 flat, and then it's got, I think it's supposed to have tier 2 attack speed, tier 2 crit chance, and then Bankscraft double damage. No additional arrows. It makes it a little easier there, and that's because we're doing a lightning arrow build, so we don't need to pay an arm and a leg for additional arrows on the bow. In fact, honestly, 10% chance to deal double damage is better than 1 additional arrow, I would say, on a lightning arrow build that doesn't have any other sources of double damage, for sure. The quiver over here is also kind of expensive. This happens to be the quiver that I already had crafted for my own league starter. A little bit on the higher budget side of things, but again, this is almost identical in alignment to what Tuna's late game quiver looked like. So, there you go. Another item that is essentially the same, I added crit catalysts on here, but here is truth. I thought about switching over to Yoke of Suffering. It would be a very good thing here. You could also run a Simplex or a Focus Amulet for more Magic Find, but that's definitely going higher budget. So, again, keeping in the spirit of his build, same exact amulet, except with the catalyst. Obviously traded out his Amethyst rings for double Ventors. These Ventors, not going to be super cheap, but you don't have to have necessarily this high of resistances. You'll see that I'm overcapped on resistances even before, I believe, even before endurance charges and divination distillates. So got plenty of room to spare with the resistances. You don't need to have it this high. You could go 10% quant, you could go 5% quant, you know, make it cheaper or whatever. This is kind of what I landed on here. You can see that you're going to need high lightning res though. Definitely going to need high lightning res. By the way, new tattoo system for dexterity points. You can get 6% cold res per dexterity points. You really don't need to prioritize cold resistance anymore as a Deadeye. If you if you're running Supreme Ostentation anyway, I guess. Let's go over to the belt. So the belt, in my opinion, was extremely good in his late game version. He had a Stygian Vice. It was Hunter influenced. It was double tier 1 max life, and it was all tier 1. It was like tier 1 strength, tier 1 double resistances. That seemed a little bit of a stretch to me. I personally would not go so far as to make a belt this good for myself as a league starter. Probably maybe about the same thing, except no Hunter influence mod. Perhaps, but I really do need the Stygian Vice because for my build, in my case, we're not running the health flask, the bubbling health flask of alleviation or whatever it is that gives you corrupted blood immunity when you use it, so we have to get it somewhere else. Don't really have room for it on any other jewels, so I'm going to get it here. This is a uniquely good spot to do it. Also, my build has some very particular things we're going to see in the PoE about how to get avoidance immune, elemental avoidance immune. In this case, I need some shock avoidance to get shock immune, so I have it here. So those are 2 mods that I really want on this jewel. Corrupted blood immunity, shock avoidance. Anything else is fine. Anything else is fine. I don't need blind or mana regen. We actually get blind in tattoos moving forward. And don't even technically need blind anyway. So we got a gold worm here, and that's not going to come to any surprise. I don't really need to talk about this. Default Magic Find boots. If you're not wearing these boots, you're probably not Magic Finding. The helmet is of similar caliber to Tuna's, but is rerouted into more Magic Find friendly stats. actually try to get a double life roll in there. But anyway, you know, high tier life roll, suppress. Got a rarity, tier 1 rarity fracture. Get some more rarity. Get some chaos res. Chaos resistance is going to be kind of a big deal. Okay, actually, sorry, I was mistaken. I forgot. Not elemental resistance capped without endurance charges. Okay. With endurance charges, very, very, very close. All right. We also got Worm Sign. So I mentioned this in the map showcase. I am doing Worm Sign to get a pseudo 5 link, and we'll show the links in a second here. It gives me concentrated effect for free. And one thing this build, and a lot of builds like this, will lack is single target damage, unless, like in Tuna's build, you have a 6-link artillery ballista set up as one of your links, which I do not, because I'm favoring the cast on crit Warlord's Mark thing for all that mitigation that I mentioned in there. So this is a workaround for losing some of the single target. In maps, I don't think you need a huge amount of single target, but you do want some, because you got Beyond bosses, Delirium bosses, map bosses, crazy Legion rares. You do need it a little bit, and I think this is going to be a nice way to smooth that out while still getting a ton of mitigation through the 6-link that I have, which I'll show you in just a brief moment. All right, so that's all the gear. We also have flasks here, and, you know, Tuna had really, really good flasks, including a perfect Alchemist Jade flask of the Impala. All right, fine, I dig it. We'll go for that. I wasn't initially going for evasion, but I realized there was a way I could pull Purity of Elements out, and we can go full-blown evasion. This build, fully upgraded, I think fully buffed up, has around 90% evasion. Not 95% cap, but 90% with a whole bunch more mitigation, so that works out. I would probably personally run reduce effective curses on me instead of one of these other suffixes. You could also get rarity in here. I did not put a rarity flask in here because I don't think the value proposition, the opportunity cost really justifies it. Flask is really one of the worst places to try to get rarity into your build. So if you already got around 300% like I do on this build, really don't need it. I don't think you need it unless you're doing, you know, aura bot stuff. But as far as like single target, don't really need it. The Divination Distillate is in there, of course. Dying Sun was in his build. It's going to be in here as well. It's a good flask for lightning arrow. So that concludes all the gear. Let's get to the gem links. The primary gem links, I think, are, if I'm not mistaken, identical to his. We got Val Lightning Arrow, which I always forget to use and didn't even use in the map showcase. Very strong. And one reason why Lightning Arrow might have an edge out over Elemental Hit of the Spectrum, which is, you know, a big transfigured gem people are talking about, which is obviously going to be a great gem for this build, by the way, because I'm running Secrets of Suffering with Skitterbot. That's 5 reliable elemental ailments on the build right there. So be on the lookout for Elemental Hit of the Spectrum as a substitute for Lightning Arrow. But, you know, I do like Lightning Arrow. It's his build. His build is Lightning Arrow. I'm going to use Lightning Arrow. And, you know, maybe he'll switch to Elemental Hit as well. I don't know. We got increased critical damage support. So did his. I think these are all the same. He used an Awaken Elemental Damage attack support. So am I. In that case, we've got Trinity, Return Projectiles. This was the Return Projectiles Far Shot style of gameplay for the Deadeye. So that's all there in fitting order. And the mana cost 18, but it actually only costs 13 because, let's actually move down here to see this pseudo 5 link. Mana cost of skills for me is only 13 because I am running Worm Sign and I get endurance charges reliably, 3 endurance charges. And we'll be going for a Mana Forge setup, Blast Rain, Storm Rain, Life Tap with level 5 concentrated effect. This is a terrific 4-link, autocast 4-link single target damage in the campaign while you're leveling through maps. Typically, people don't keep it all the way to the end game, but I am going to try to pull it off here at the end game. I think it's going to be very strong. I'm even using this exact same link setup in my own league starter. So I think this is one of the coolest and deserves to become meta kind of links for, you know, Deadeyes, especially since we're already going for Rampage. So Worm Sign gives us Rampage and gives us mana cost reduction. I made a whole separate video on this recently, so there you go. The other 6-link, I think for Tuna, is an Artillery Ballista 6-link. Extremely strong for single target. It does involve you having to cast an additional button, but I pulled the 3-link Frenzy, Mana Forge, and Power Charge on crit out and put it in the 6-link in this case because I was able to get single target somewhere else. And we got the cast on crit, Life Tap with either Sniper's Mark or Warlord's Mark. So if you do Sniper's Mark, I guess you don't even need Secrets of Suffering. You can just go pure. That way you're going to have a lot less mitigation. You're going to have overall more single target. So by all means, that's an option there. For me, I like the Warlord's Mark and Life Tap. Crit, cast on crit, full-blown 6-link. And, you know, these can be whatever. But in this case, I tried to slam in the 3-link in here with it. So trying to be efficient with the links. I had to be in order to get this extra 4-link in. Okay, let's go over to the auras. Of course, we got Skitterbots, Petrify Blood, and Grace. So yeah, Grace is the only actual aura here, but then we got Skitterbots to get additional to get Shock and Chill back into the build. Then we got Petrify Blood because we're running Divination Distillate and we need that. So it's nice. We got so much life drain from especially this 5-link. So it serves to be really, really nice. And we can keep Divination Distillate up easily with this build. We're able to get Vitality into the build by virtue of doing an Arrogance setup with this. And so again, even more socket starved than I was in Tuna's build. And again, that's why I had to drop the Artillery Ballista link. We got Flame Dash in here just to put it in somewhere. So we got Flame Dash and Berserk on single links. There, we've got Dread Banner back into the build. You could put Precision in here instead of Dread Banner if you switched over to Yoke of Suffering, which would absolutely be more damage than this. And I would personally probably suggest switching over because we're already not really making any use of the extra Precision mana reservation efficiency here. Also, it's causing some issues on mana reservation efficiency already by having to run Summon Skitterbots, Petrify Blood, Grace, and Precision through the necklace, and didn't quite have to run an Enlightened support, but came close. Ended up having to, like, for example, take the Mastery for reservation efficiency, which we'll see in a moment when we get to the passives, which I guess, yeah, we got through all the links, so we're there. We're there, going to the passives. But actually, I'm going to start with Jewels. We'll start with Jewels. So we got an Inspired Learning. Tuna had an Inspired Learning. I think I agree. Great place to have an Inspired Learning. If you're not doing a Lethal Pride or Brutal Restraint, got to have Inspired Learning here. If you are doing Lethal Pride or Brutal Restraint, you could have it up here. But for me, in this case, I'm a big believer of Elegant Hubris, especially with the new tattoo system coming out. Supreme Ostentation has now got a major leg up over Lethal Pride variants, at least in my opinion, if it didn't already. Certainly got a leg up this time around. Was able to get the mana reservation efficiency here, as mentioned, because I went for the Elegant Hubris with useful nodes that are here. Just 3 nodes in this case, nothing too crazy. Just a max life, rarity, and a projectile attack damage. You could do a lot better than that, obviously. But anyway, we got Elegant Hubris, we got Inspired Learning, and just like him, we got an Ancestral Vision. But this does not cover me for all of the possible avoidance for elemental ailments. I'll get more into that in the PoB section, though. Also running a large cluster. You can do martial prowess instead of heavy hitter if you want. Yeah, that's fine. Then we got a Watcher's Eye. So Tuna had a pretty good Watcher's Eye. It was evade and crit with anger. So I can't run anger with this build. Can't fit it. So in this case, we'll do precision. This happens to be perfectly rolled, but probably not going to get perfectly rolled. You don't necessarily need an amazing Watcher's Eye, but I mean, these are 2 very good mods that you could have with it. I'm not getting capped evasion anyway, so I don't think it's absolutely mandatory you get this. But obviously, the evasion mod is the better of the 2 here. And then we also have Secrets of Suffering, which in order to do what I want to do with the Warlord's Mark stun tech to get all the rage and berserk, gotta have Secrets of Suffering for this build because we're doing cold damage. There's no way around it. We're going to do cold damage with Lightning Arrow. Okay, so that's all the jewels, and now for the passives. All right, for the passives, had to get Charisma and the mana reservation efficiency here in order to pull off fitting everything in with this kind of budget on the mana. I could have ran with an Essence of Loathing to get a little extra here instead. Maybe that could have pulled that off. But at any rate, yeah, if you go Yoke of Suffering and pull out of Heres here and then pull out of the, Dread Banner and get Precision there, this will open up a lot more options on the mana side. But anyway, with this setup, it gets a bit restrictive, but there you go. All right, so you can see going up here is mainly to get Supreme Ostentation to remove the need for any intelligence or strength whatsoever, and it's going to unlock also the tattoos in full force. No downsides for tattoos in the game, and tattoos are presumably going to be pretty common now. No honored tattoos, no really crazy expensive ones, just the cheap ones, which do absolutely have some value, which we'll see when we get to the PoB. Still going a lot of the damage mods here, like Force of Nature, going to be doing piercing shots. Still going with the far shot option with piercing shots and return projectiles on the main 6-link. Endless munitions, gathering winds. Focal point absolutely needs to be there. With focal point for the Warlord's Mark, very strong there. You need to actually, just like Tuna says in his guide, you need to have when an enemy dies, it transfers over. Yes, you can still do the Mark Master here for that instead. But instead of getting 20 rage, you get like 36 rage with this. So kind of better anyway, I think. Yeah, all right. Well, this is a crit-based build, no precise technique. I think almost everything down here is the same as him. Pulled points out of this area here to fit in more up into the top with the Elegant Hubris, I believe, or rather maybe to fit in the cluster anyway. Basically, a lot of these passives match up with what Tuna had regardless. You know, I pulled a few out of here. Suppress is a little sketchy. I think with tattoos, I have a 100% chance to suppress while phasing. Yeah, it was 101% chance to suppress while phasing, if I'm not mistaken. All of the life nodes still taken. We got 3,800 life, which I think is actually more than he had, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, pretty good. Pretty nice setup there. Not doing Master Fletcher. It's not worth it to get it. I did get multi-shot. I like nearby enemies are intimidated while you have rage. Can't actually remember off the top of my head what his had there, but yeah. Okay. I think it's something like 95% crit chance with all buffs up. Phasing over here. I think phasing here. Yeah, he had it on a jewel, but he was also 1 point away from evasion phases. So just take 1 point here and get a jewel that's a little bit more functional, shall we say. Okay. Now, Path of Building. All right, so this is Tuna's Path of Building. I just pulled this straight off of his guide from YouTube, and I mean, you can see it's got everything. Early, mid, late. Now a brand new section is here. All of this is exactly the same. I haven't touched anything on the early, mid, late. Make it magic find. All right, we're going to go make it magic find. This is just attempting to make his build magic find. That's all, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so here it is. It's all set up here. And the big thing to note here is the tattoos. Absolutely. So we're going to get blind automatically in the build. Easily, right there. We're going to get stun immunity. Stun immunity is going to be absolutely huge and worth the payoff. I mean, even if you had to pay the price of 10 dexterity, you're going to want stun immunity anyway. Actually, I think it's 98% chance to avoid stuns in total, if I remember correctly. What else we got? We didn't quite hit the spell suppress on there, but you know, you can see with the phasing, chance to suppress is there at 100%, and this does matter. Have some ramifications for ancestral vision, because as you see me moving through here, I think I got 4 or 5. Yeah, it was 5 suppress rolls. We got a couple of cold res rolls, which are very convenient. We got a lightning res roll, which is one right here we could do. By the way, with Yoke of Suffering, you're going to want a chance to poison here instead, and then even take this point for a chance to bleed as well. It's going to be terrific with the Yoke of Suffering if you went that route. Then we have these here, which just happen to be terrific, terrifically useful here. Very surprising that we'll be able to do this. 10% chance to avoid chill and frozen. Of course, you really, really, really don't want to be chill or frozen. So you can see here, I mean, this is just going to be exactly what I need. 90% chance here, right? So I just hit exactly the cap with here. So you could do one more to play it safe in case you're not phasing. But anyway, there it is. Put that back in, and then suddenly, voila, 100% shock avoidance. So I guess it didn't go through. Try that again. Add. There we go. 100% shock avoidance, 100% freeze avoidance, 100% chill avoidance. Still have a chance to get ignite, sapped, brittled, scorched. Okay, fine. Those aren't nearly as big of a deal. But, you know, that's one of the weaknesses of the build, so I'm trying to work with what I got to get the best thing I can. But yeah, that's basically it. I think I'll go into the config. I currently have the config set up for basically the same as it would be for bossing. There's a little bit of shock and chill thanks to skitterbots. There's sap, some sap, scorch, brittle going on. I guess 99% chance to crit with those thresholds. You will have power charge, frenzy, and endurance up the whole time with Warlord's Mark. You could do more damage with Sniper's Mark here, but this is, I mean, this is what it. I mean, I actually rigged this up kind of similar to Tuna, and this is conceivably the kind of damage you would do against the boss. So it's it's a mapping build and a magic finding build. So don't be bossing on this build, preferably. Oh, I should say here we'll uncheck that. See, I forgot. Should probably uncheck that because that's not going to be up on a boss. Okay, hopefully that's right. All right, 4 million DPS, I guess. Okay, there you go, guys. that is the build in question. That is Tuna's 3.24 Lightning Arrow Deadeye League starter, transformed into a Magic Find build from the later iteration. This is all pre-Headhunter stuff. Again, so this is certainly a budget of, I don't know, well under 100 divines anyway. It should be. And if it's not, well, then it's pretty close. You know, because I don't think if you compare his items here in the late, you know, these are all a very similar caliber here. You know, most of the items are pretty similarly well rolled. This is what he was suggesting for the late in-game setup. Wyatt, I gotta fix that. Gotta put his belt back in. But yeah, that is it. So if you wanted to play a Lightning Arrow League starter, like so many people do, and if you wanted to Magic Find with it, now you have a blueprint, at least one. And so yeah, quite a bit of time went into this, constructing this. I actually did a lot of this legwork last league. I just didn't quite get it out in time to post it before the league start. And I told myself, we're going to get this done. We're going to start the series, make it Magic Find the following league. So that is now. Let me know what you think, and let me know what kind of build you would like to see made Magic Find next time. So that'll be, we'll have to revisit this conversation. Probably on my Discord is where the vote will take place. Some people have talked about Righteous Fire. Some people have talked about Cast on Crit Detonate Dead, maybe. You know, crazy stuff. You know, we could have a lot of fun with it moving forward. But we'll keep it simple, keep it straightforward, and give you guys a nice, easy-going, easy to understand Lightning Arrow Deadeye Magic Finder. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and thank you all for who were tuned in live, because we did this one straight up on Twitch. Managed to do it in one take, so yay. One more video coming out before this will be my Atlas completion strat and the initial Atlas farm, so stay tuned for that. Just hours before the league start.